January 15, 1943. Guadalcanal. Captain Joe Foss, Marine fighter pilot, age 27, climbed into his F-4F Wildcat fighter for what would be his final combat mission of the war. In the previous 4 months, Foss had shot down 26 Japanese aircraft, tying Eddie Rickenbacker's legendary WWII record as America's ace of aces. But on this day, Foss wasn't hunting for his 27th kill to break the record. He was escorting bombers, protecting his fellow Marines, doing his job. As they flew over the Solomon Islands, a formation of Japanese Zero fighters appeared. The enemy had come to fight. What happened next would seal Joe Foss's legacy as one of the greatest fighter pilots in American history. But here's what makes Joe Foss's story extraordinary. He wasn't supposed to be there at all. He was too old for fighter pilots. 26 when he entered combat. Most were 19, 22. He had been rejected multiple times for flight training. He had a punctured eardrum from a childhood swimming accident. He came from a dirt-poor farm in South Dakota during the Depression. He had no connections, no advantages, no special treatment. Just determination, skill, and an absolute refusal to quit. And after the war, Joe Foss became Governor of South Dakota, first commissioner of the American Football League, helped create the AFL, president of the National Rifle Association TV personality, hosted The American Sportsman for 20 years. One of the most recognized Americans of his generation. This is day 16 of 100 days of WWII heroes. The story of Joe Foss, the farm boy from South Dakota who became the top Marine ace of WWII, who tied Eddie Rickenbacker's legendary record, who refused to let anything stop him, and who lived one of the most remarkable American lives of the 20th century. The farm boy from South Dakota, Joseph Jacob Foss, was born April 17, 1915, on a farm near Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The family. The Foss family were Norwegian-American farmers. Father, Frank Foss, hard-working farmer. Mother, Mary Foss. Strong, devoted mother, several children working the land. Tight-knit family, strong Lutheran faith. The farm, 1920s. The Foss farm in South Dakota was typical for the region. Small family farm, grew crops, wheat, corn, raised livestock. Everyone worked from young age. Hard life, but honest living, close to the land. Young Joe. As a boy, Joe Foss was hard-working, farm chores from early age, athletic, strong from farm work, curious, interested in everything, independent, learned, self-reliance, determined. Once he set his mind, nothing stopped him. 1927, the tragedy. When Joe was 12 years old, his father, Frank Foss, died suddenly. The impact. Frank's death devastated the family. Lost the father and primary breadwinner, farm in jeopardy. Mother Mary left to raise children alone. Money extremely tight, uncertain future. Joe's response. At age 12, Joe took on more responsibility, worked harder on the farm, helped support family, took on man's work at boy's age, never complained, did what needed to be done. The lesson. His father's death taught Joe, life is fragile. You have to work for everything. Family comes first. Don't wait for opportunities. Create them. Perseverance matters more than luck. These lessons would define his entire life. The Great Depression, 1929 to 1939. The Depression hit South Dakota's farmers brutally hard. Crop prices collapsed. Dust bowl conditions. Banks foreclosing on farms. Families losing everything. Desperate times. The Foss family. The Foss family struggled like everyone. Farm barely producing income. Money scarce food. Sometimes scarce. Uncertainty constant. But they held on. Joe's work. Throughout his teenage years, Joe worked, farm work, odd jobs in Sioux Falls. Whatever paid anything, helped keep family afloat, saved what little he could. 1929. The defining moment. In 1929, when Joe was 14 years old, Charles Lindbergh flew into Sioux Falls as part of a barnstorming tour. Joe rode his bicycle to the airfield to see Lindbergh's plane. The moment, Joe Foss saw Lindbergh's Spirit of St. Louis up close. Watched it take off. Watched it fly. In that moment, something ignited in young Joe Foss. I'm going to fly. Not I want to fly or I hope to fly. I'm going to fly. From that day forward, Joe Foss had a single goal. Become a pilot. The obstacles. The obstacles facing a poor farm boy who wanted to fly in 1929. Flying lessons were expensive. Joe had no money. Planes were expensive. Family had no money. Flying was for the wealthy or military. Joe had no connections, no obvious path forward. Joe's response: Joe didn't care about the obstacles. He would find a way. High school, Sioux Falls. Joe attended high school in Sioux Falls, commuted from farm when possible, worked to help pay expenses. Good student, B's and A's, played football, strong, athletic from farm work, popular with classmates. But his mind was always on flying. The swimming accident. During high school, Joe had a swimming accident. Dove into water, ear injury, punctured eardrum. The consequence. The punctured eardrum would become a major obstacle. Later military flight training required perfect hearing. But Joe didn't know that yet. Graduation, 1933. Joe graduated from high school in 1933, age 18. The decision. Joe faced a choice. Stay on farm. Family needed him. Find work in Depression economy. Try for college, but no money. Joe's choice. Joe decided to attend the University of South Dakota in Vermilion. Would study engineering, would work his way through, would find a way to fly. University of South Dakota, 1933 to 1940. Joe enrolled at the University of South Dakota in fall 1933. Paying for college. Joe had no money. So he worked, gas station attendant, construction work, any job he could find, worked nights and weekends, studied when he could. It took Joe 7 years to complete a 4-year degree because he had to stop and work to earn money. Academics. Despite working constantly, Joe maintained decent grades. Studied engineering, good student when he had time. Determined to finish, ROTC, Joe joined the Reserve Officers Training Corps, ROTC. Military training on campus, possibility of officer commission, maybe a path to flying. 1939 to 1940 civilian pilot training. In 1939, the U.S. government started the Civilian Pilot Training Program, designed to train civilian pilots. In case of war, trained pilots available, offered at universities free for students. Joe's opportunity. This was the break Joe had been waiting for since seeing Lindbergh in 1929, 10 years earlier. He immediately applied for the CPT program at University of South Dakota. First flight, 1939. At age 24, Joe Foss finally took his first flight lesson. The instructor. Joe's instructor noted, natural pilot, excellent instincts, very determined student, solo flight. Joe soloed quickly. The moment he was alone in the sky, he knew this was what he was meant to do, pilot's license. Joe earned his private pilot's license through the CPT program. After 10 years of dreaming, Joe Foss was a pilot. But he wanted more. He wanted to fly fighters. 1940 college graduation. In 1940, after 7 years, Joe Foss finally graduated from the University of South Dakota. Bachelor's degree in engineering. Aged 25, older than most graduates had to work. ROTC commission as second lieutenant pilot's license, ready for next step, the decision Marine Corps. Joe decided to apply for Marine Corps flight training. Why Marines? Marines were building their aviation program. Fighters, Joe wanted fighters. Elite service, challenge, the application. Joe applied to Marine Corps flight training in 1940. The problem, the Marine Corps had an age limit for flight training, must be under 26. Joe was 25 when he applied, would turn 26 during training. First rejection. The Marines rejected Joe's application. Too old. Joe's response. Joe didn't accept the rejection. He reapplied. Second rejection. Rejected again. Too old. Joe's response. Joe reapplied. Again. The persistence. Joe later said, they kept rejecting me. I kept applying. I wasn't going to quit until they said yes. The break. Finally, in late 1940, the Marines were desperate for pilots. War coming, needed trained pilots, couldn't be too choosy. Acceptance. Joe Foss was accepted for Marine Corps flight training, barely under the age limit. He was 25 years old, ancient by pilot standards. Most were 19, 22. January 1941, Marine flight training. Joe reported for Marine Corps flight training in January 1941, Pensacola, Florida. Marine pilot training was conducted at Pensacola Naval Air Station, Florida. The physical, Joe had to pass a rigorous physical examination. The eardrum problem. During the physical, doctors discovered Joe's punctured eardrum from the swimming accident years earlier. Automatic disqualification. Joe's response? Joe refused to accept disqualification. He argued eardrum had healed. Mostly hearing was fine. Had flown civilian aircraft with no problems. would not affect performance, the waiver. After arguing his case, Joe got a medical waiver. He was allowed to continue. The training, marine flight training, was intense. Ground school, navigation, meteorology, engines, tactics, flight training, basic to advanced, gunnery training. Formation flying carrier qualifications, survival training, washout rate. Many candidates washed out couldn't handle the pressure, the G-forces, the stress. Joe's performance. Joe excelled. Natural pilot, CPT experience helped. Excellent gunnery scores. Farm boy used to shooting. Calm under pressure. Farm life prepared him. Older and more mature than younger pilots. Determined to succeed. Instructor's assessment. Joe's instructors noted, Foss is one of the best natural pilots we've seen. Excellent marksman. Older than most, but that's an advantage. Maturity, judgment, steadiness. March 1941, wings. In March 1941, Joe Foss earned his Naval Aviator wings. He was now a Marine pilot. Age, 25 years, 11 months. He had made it just in time. Assignment Fighter Squadron. Joe was assigned to a Marine Fighter Squadron, trained on F-4. F Wildcat fighters, continued advanced training prepared for war, the F-4F Wildcat. The Wildcat was the Marine Corps' primary fighter, single-seat fighter, 6.50 caliber machine guns, tough, sturdy aircraft. Not as maneuverable as Japanese Zero, but rugged and could take punishment. December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor. When Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, Joe Foss was a Marine pilot in training. Reaction. Like all Americans, Joe was shocked and angry. But unlike most Americans, Joe was trained and ready to fight. 1942. Training continues. Through early 1942, Joe continued training. Advanced fighter tactics, gunnery practice, formation, flying. Preparation for combat. The wait. Joe was frustrated. He wanted to get into combat, but Marines were still building up forces in Pacific. Promotion. By mid-1942, Joe had been promoted to captain, recognition of his maturity and leadership. At age 27, Joe was one of the oldest fighter pilots in the Marine Corps. August 1942, the call. In August 1942, Joe got orders. Report to VMF 121, Marine Fighting Squadron 121, deploying to Guadalcanal. Finally, combat. Guadalcanal, the battle. Background. Guadalcanal was the first major U.S. offensive in the Pacific. Marines landed August 7th, 1942, seized Japanese-held island-built airfield, Henderson Field. Now defending it against Japanese counterattacks. The mission, VMF 121's mission, defend Henderson Field, intercept Japanese bombers, fight Japanese fighters, protect Marines on ground. October 1942, for arrival. Joe Foss and VMF 121 arrived at Guadalcanal in October 1942. Henderson Field. Henderson Field was primitive. Dirt runway, minimal facilities, constantly under attack. Pilots living in tents. Sparse supplies. Hot, humid, miserable conditions. The Japanese threat. Japanese forces were attacking constantly. Daily bombing raids. Naval bombardment at night. Infantry attacks on perimeter, trying to retake the island. The air battle. The air battle over Guadalcanal was desperate. Japanese bombers came daily from Rabaul, 350 miles north. Escorted by Zero fighters, Marines had to intercept and shoot them down. Every day. Multiple missions. Intense combat. October 13th, 1942, first combat. On October 13, 1942, Captain Joe Foss flew his first combat mission. The mission, intercept incoming Japanese bombers and fighters. The contact, VMF 121, encountered a formation of Japanese aircraft, Betty bombers, Zero fighter escorts heading for Henderson Field. Foss's first kill. In the swirling dogfight, Foss got on the tail of a Japanese Zero, lined up shot, fired .50 caliber machine guns. Hits on the Zero Japanese fighter, smoking went down. Joe Foss's first aerial victory. The feeling. After landing, Foss described his feelings. Exhilaration, he'd shot down an enemy. Satisfaction, training paid off. Awareness. This was real. Japanese pilot probably dead. Determination. Do it again. October 13th, 1942, the rampage begins. Over the next 12 days, Joe Foss went on an extraordinary run. October 13th, 1-0 destroyed October 18th. 4 aircraft destroyed, 1-0, 3 bombers. October 20th, 3 aircraft destroyed October 23rd. 4 aircraft destroyed October 25th. 4 aircraft destroyed. Total into 12 days. 16 Japanese aircraft destroyed. The Foss Flying Circus. Foss led a division of 4 Wildcats nicknamed Foss's Flying Circus. Captain Joe Foss, leader. 3 other Marine pilots. They flew together, fought together, coordinated tactics, protected each other. Foss's leadership. As division leader, Foss was responsible for leading formations, calling tactics in combat, protecting his wingmen, shooting down enemy aircraft. His tactics. Foss developed effective tactics. Use Wildcat's strengths, ruggedness, firepower, diving speed. Avoid Zero's strengths, maneuverability, climb rate. Boom and zoom attacks. Dive, shoot, climb away. Teamwork, wingmen cover each other. Aggressive but not reckless. October 25th, 1942, the big day. October 25th, 1942, was Joe Foss's biggest single day. The mission, intercept large Japanese bomber raid. The battle, the sky was full of aircraft. Japanese Betty bombers in formation. Zero escorts, Marine Wildcats attacking chaotic dogfight. Foss's performance. In this single mission, Foss shot down 4 Japanese aircraft, 2 bombers, 2 fighters, all in approximately 30 minutes of combat. After this mission, Foss had 16 kills total already. An ace, 5 times over, 5 kills ace. The conditions? Life on Guadalcanal was brutal. Constant combat, poor food, canned rations, tropical diseases, malaria, dysentery, lack of sleep, night attacks, heat and humidity, stress and exhaustion. Foss's health. Like most Marines on Guadalcanal, Foss suffered, lost significant weight, battled malaria, exhausted constantly, but kept flying. November-December 1942, continued success. Through November and December, Foss continued shooting down Japanese aircraft. November, several more kills. December, several more kills. The score rising. By late December 1942, Foss had 23 confirmed kills. January 15, 1943. The record? On January 15, 1943, Foss flew what would be his final combat mission. The mission, escort bombers attacking Japanese positions. The fight, Japanese Zeros attacked the formation. Foss engaged. 3 more Japanese aircraft shot down. The new total, 26 kills. The record, with 26 confirmed aerial victories, Joe Foss had tied Eddie Rickenbacker's WWII record as America's ace of aces. Rickenbacker, the legendary WWII pilot, had held the record for 24 years. Now a 27-year-old farm boy from South Dakota had tied him. January 1943, ordered home. After the January 15th mission, Marine Corps headquarters ordered Joe Foss to return to the United States. Why? He'd been in combat for 4 months straight. 26 kills, tied national record. Exhausted, sick, malaria, too valuable to lose, needed for morale purposes at home. Foss's reaction. Foss didn't want to leave. His squadron was still fighting. War wasn't over, felt like he was abandoning his men, but orders were orders. Return to United States, February 1943. Joe Foss returned to the United States in February 1943. The hero's welcome. Foss arrived to a hero's welcome. Newspapers covering his story. Farm boy ties Rickenbacker's record. America's top fighter, ace national celebrity. Foss was uncomfortable with the attention. He just wanted to get back to combat. Meeting Rickenbacker. Shortly after returning, Joe Foss met Eddie Rickenbacker, the man whose record he'd tied. Rickenbacker's reaction. Rickenbacker was gracious. Congratulated Foss, said the record was meant to be broken. Praised Foss's achievement. 2 generations of aces. Mutual respect. April 18th, 1943. The White House. On April 18th, 1943, Captain Joe Foss stood in the White House. President Franklin D. Roosevelt placed the Medal of Honor around his neck. The citation, condensed, for outstanding heroism and courage above and beyond the call of duty as Executive Officer of Marine Fighting Squadron 121. During the period, the 9th of October to the 19th of November, 1942, and the 15th of January, 1943, Captain Foss personally shot down 23 Japanese planes and damaged others. By his superb airmanship, inspiring leadership, and indomitable fighting spirit, Captain Foss contributed materially to the success of the Guadalcanal campaign. Note the citation lists 23 kills as those were confirmed at time of award. 3 more were confirmed later for a total of 26. FDR's words. Roosevelt told Foss, "You have done your country proud, Captain. Thank you for your service." Foss's response. Foss was humble. "Thank you, Mr. President. I was just doing my job. The real heroes are still fighting." 1943 to 1944, war bond tours. For the rest of 1943 and into 1944, the Marine Corps sent Foss on war bond tours, speaking at rallies, encouraging Americans to buy war bonds, raising morale, recruiting for Marines. Foss's frustration. Foss hated war bond tours, wanted to return to combat, felt like he was wasting time. Uncomfortable being celebrity, but he did his duty. Marriage, 1943. In 1943, Joe Foss married June Shackstad, his longtime girlfriend from South Dakota. They had known each other since high school. She had waited for him through the war. 1944, Training Command. In 1944, Foss was assigned to Training Command, training new Marine pilots, passing on combat experience, preparing next generation. Still frustrating, Foss wanted combat, but at least contributing to war effort. August 1945, WWII ends. Japan surrendered in August 1945. Joe Foss's war was over. Final statistics: 26 confirmed aerial victories, tied Rickenbacker's record. Tied as top USMC ace of WWII, with several others who also got 26. Medal of Honor, Distinguished Flying Cross, Air Medal survived the war. Post-war 1945. After the war, Foss faced the question all veterans face. What now? He was 30 years old, a war hero, Medal of Honor recipient, but what would he do with the rest of his life? Many WWII heroes struggled after the war, not Joe Foss. 1946 to 1954, business and politics. Foss returned to South Dakota and started a charter flying service, entered politics Republican. Served in South Dakota, Air National Guard, built reputation as leader. 1954, governor campaign. In 1954, Joe Foss ran for governor of South Dakota. The campaign, Foss ran as Republican. Farm boy who made good war hero, common sense conservative, connected with voters. November 1954, elected governor. Joe Foss was elected governor of South Dakota. At age 39, the farm boy who became a fighter ace was now governing his home state. 1955 to 1959, governor of South Dakota. Foss served as governor from 1955 to 1959, two two-year terms. His priorities: economic development, education, veterans affairs, agriculture, understood farmers, leadership style. Foss governed the way he flew. Decisive, no-nonsense common sense, direct communication, assessment. Foss was considered a good, solid governor, not flashy, but effective. 1959. Term ends. After 2 terms, Foss decided not to run again. But his public life was far from over. 1960, American Football League. In 1960, a new professional football league was forming. The American Football League, AFL. The AFL needed a strong leader as its first commissioner. They chose Joe Foss. 1960 to 1966, AFL commissioner. As the first commissioner of the AFL, Foss helped establish the league, negotiated TV contracts, managed team owners, built credibility, competed with NFL, the challenge. The AFL had to compete with the established NFL. Needed credibility, needed TV coverage, needed fan support, needed to survive. Foss's leadership. Foss brought national recognition, Medal of Honor recipient, leadership experience, governor, combat commander, no-nonsense approach, integrity for success. Under Foss's leadership, the AFL survived and grew, secured TV contracts, built fan base, competed effectively with NFL, set foundation for eventual AFL-NFL merger. 1970. 1966, leaves AFL. In 1966, Foss resigned as AFL commissioner, some disputes with owners. But the AFL was now established and viable. 1967 to 1988, TV personality. In 1967, Foss became host of The American Sportsman, a TV show on ABC. The show, The American Sportsman, featured hunting and fishing adventures, celebrities trying outdoor sports, conservation messages, outdoor lifestyle. Foss as host. Foss was perfect for the role. Authentic outdoorsman, farm boy, hunter, comfortable on camera, national recognition connected with audience, the success. The show ran for 20 years, 1967 to 1988, with Foss as primary host. Millions of Americans watched Joe Foss every week. 1988 to 1995, NRA Presidency. In 1988, Foss was elected president of the National Rifle Association. His tenure as NRA president, 1988 to 1990. Foss advocated for Second Amendment rights connected with members. War hero hunter, brought credibility to organizations, served 1 term. He remained active in NRA for years after. The full life. By the 1990s, Joe Foss had lived an extraordinary American life. Military hero. Top Marine ace World War II. 26 kills. Medal of Honor. Recipient tied Rickenbacker's legendary record. Political leader, Governor of South Dakota, 2 terms. AFL Commissioner, helped establish league. Media personality, TV host, 20 years. National recognition, advocate. NRA President. Veterans Causes Conservation. Family man. Married to June for 50-plus years. Children and grandchildren. 1997, autobiography. In 1997, Foss published his autobiography, A Proud American, the autobiography of Joe Foss. The book told his remarkable life story and became a bestseller. The final years, 1990s to 2003. In his final years, Foss remained active in veterans' causes, spoke at events, lived in Arizona. With wife June, enjoyed grandchildren, reflected on extraordinary life. 2002, airport security incident. In January 2002, 86-year-old Joe Foss was traveling through Phoenix Airport. Security screeners stopped him because he was carrying his Medal of Honor. The screeners didn't recognize the Medal of Honor and detained him as suspicious. The irony. America's top World War II ace, Medal of Honor recipient, being detained as security threat. The resolution. Once supervisors arrived and realized who he was, Foss was released with apologies. The incident highlighted how younger generations didn't know World War II heroes, but Foss was gracious, said the screeners were doing their job. January 1st, 2003 death. Joseph Jacob Foss died on January 1st, 2003 in Scottsdale, Arizona. He was 87 years old, caused complications from stroke, funeral. Foss was buried with full military honors. Flag-draped coffin, Marine Honor Guard, Medal of Honor tribute, flyover by Marine FA-18 fighters, TAPS 3 volley salute, the attendees. Foss's funeral was attended by family, wife, June, children, grandchildren, fellow veterans, political figures, celebrities, thousands of ordinary Americans, people whose lives he'd touched. The eulogy. The eulogy captured Foss's extraordinary life. Joe Foss was the quintessential American, born on a dirt-poor farm, lost his father young, worked his way through college, refused to take no for answer, became America's top fighter ace, tied Rickenbacker's legendary record, earned the Medal of Honor, then came home and built another extraordinary life. Governor, sports commissioner, TV personality, advocate. He never forgot where he came from, never lost his humility, never stopped serving. He lived 87 years and made everyone count. He showed us what's possible when you refuse to quit, when you work hard, when you serve others. Joe Foss was a proud American, and America is proud of Joe Foss. The legacy, military legacy, top Marine ace World War II, tied 26 kills. Medal of Honor recipient tied Eddie Rickenbacker's legendary WWII record example of Marine fighter pilot excellence. Tactical innovator, Foss's flying circus. Political legacy, Governor of South Dakota, 2 terms. Effective no-nonsense leader, represented values of rural America. Sports legacy, first AFL commissioner, helped establish American Football League Foundation for AFL-NFL merger. Important figure in football history. Cultural legacy, TV personality, 20 years. Conservation advocate, outdoor sportsman, NRA President. Personal legacy, farm boy to national hero, refused to quit despite obstacles, worked for everything he achieved. Served others his entire life. Family man, man of faith, say, memorials. Joe Foss Field, Sioux Falls Airport, named for him. Joe Foss Institute, Veterans Education. Statues and memorials in South Dakota. Marine Corps aviation facilities honor him. The numbers, combat record. Aerial victories, 26. Tied top USMC ace. Tied Eddie Rickenbacker's WWII record, held 24 years. Combat missions, 100 plus. Time in combat, 4 months. October 1942, January 1943. Aircraft flown. F-4F Wildcat Squadron. VMF 121. Most productive period. October 13, 25, 1942. 16 kills in 12 days. October 25th, 1942. 4 kills in single mission. Life timeline. Born April 17th, 1915. Saw Lindbergh plane. 1929. Age 14. College. 1933 to 1940. 7 years. Flight training. 1941. Wings. March 1941. Age 25. Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941, age 26. Guadalcanal, October 1942, January 1943, age 27. 26th kill, January 15th, 1943, Medal of Honor. April 18, 1943, Governor, 1955 to 1959, age 40, 44. AFL Commissioner, 1960 to 1966, age 45 and 51. TV host, 1967 to 1988, age 52, 73. NRA President, 1988 to 1990, age 73, 75. Died January 1st, 2003, age 87. Awards, Medal of Honor, Distinguished Flying Cross, 2. Air Medal, 4. Purple Heart Campaign Medals. Post-war achievements, Governor of South Dakota. AFL Commissioner, TV host, 20 years. NRA President, author, Veterans Advocate. April 17th, 1915. Born on a farm in South Dakota. Father died when he was 12. Worked through the Depression. Took 7 years to finish college. Rejected multiple times for pilot training. Too old at 26. But Joe Foss refused to quit. October 1942, January 1943. Guadalcanal. Shot down 26 Japanese aircraft in 4 months. Tied Eddie Rickenbacker's legendary WWII record. America's top Marine ace. April 18th, 1943. White House. Medal of Honor. Age 27. And built another extraordinary life. Governor, Sports Commissioner. TV host for 20 years. NRA President. Lived 87 years. Made everyone count. That's Joe Foss. The farm boy who became America's greatest fighter ace. Who refused to let anything stop him. Who tied a legend's record. Who came home and kept serving. The quintessential American success story.